PJNet Live. Monday night, it is the first Monday of the month. That means that Doug Carter will be joining us. He is standing by in the green room. And we have the recording running. We are streaming live. We have the cameras ready. So let's go to Studio 6 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, welcome to a brand new week and a brand new year for that matter. Here on PJNet Live, our first week. Now, for those of you who haven't caught on, we are just adding to the card. That's what they used to call it in wrestling, the card. The people that would be doing the show, so to speak. But Doug Carter, who's a familiar guest in the chat room with us very frequently, the first Monday of every month, he will be right here at this time, 9 p.m. Eastern. And Doug is standing by, itching to tell us about a recent trip he took to the great state of Florida, La Florida. That Florida
Absolutely
means flower in Latin or Spanish or something. I learned that.
It does, and I have a horticulture background.
Well, so, Doug,
yes.
I appreciate you coming to our state. We're one of the few states that does not have an income tax, and we rely on people like you to come down here and spend money on lottery tickets and cigarettes and alcohol and junk and hotel bed taxes and things like that. So the idea is to come down here loaded and leave broke. Seriously, what brought you to Florida, Doug?
I've got a friend. I lived in Fort Myers for 5 years. And while I was there, I worked on the golf course and had a really close friendship with a guy. And he moved to Tallahassee. So when I came back to North Carolina, I didn't get to see him very frequently, but I do try to contact him and get down there a few times a year, every year. And at this particular time was a little different, Coach. He's going through a tough time, and I wanted to get away. I've been trying to get away for weeks. We came to the end of our semester at the break, and still couldn't manage to find time. But suddenly, I had a little disaster in my home. I had my tub cracked, and I had nowhere to shower, so I had to get out of the house while we did some emergency remodeling. And I needed a place to go, and lo and behold, I've got a house in Tallahassee. So I went and stayed with my friend, and he needed me just as much as I needed him.
There's a push and there's a pull. The push being you had a bathtub crisis. Now, the idea, I think, if I got it right, was you're going to vacate the house, the contractors are going to come in, fix the problems, you're going to go minister to your friend in Florida, and when you get back, everything's going to be hunky-dory. So, is that how it worked out?
That's not how it worked out. That was the plan.
I just kind of knew there might be a fly in the ointment.
No. So I go down and I minister with my friend, and I leave the 99 and go minister to the 1. Mm-hmm. And while I was there, we really had a lot of time to reflect. We took off, drove to Pensacola the first day I was there, and that was a really bad day. He was struggling through a lot of stuff, and everything changed the next day, Coach. We came back along the coast, the Gulf Coast. It's a beautiful place in the Panama.
Highway 98.
Yes, gorgeous. And we stopped in Navarre and went walking. And I said, when I really want to get along with God and I need him to answer me, I crave that solitude. And I said, you just go ahead and let God speak to you, and you talk to him, and don't come back here. Don't stop until you hear from him. And I said, I'm going to do the same thing. And that's what we did. So we walked for 4 miles separately on a secluded beach, and it was just amazing. We got back together, and I said, okay, well, what did you find out? And he told me, what God was saying to him, and there were some things that overlapped with what God was saying to me. So I realized at that moment, I wasn't there just for him, but it was for me too. Mm-hmm. And so
it's one of those moments like, when you're ministering, and ministry, I'm going to use that in a very broad sense. For example, when I'm coaching or teaching or doing, and sometimes I wonder who got the most out of it, them or me.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a very satisfying
And
feeling.
it is. And, it's an 8-hour drive each way. So on the way down, I put on repeat a couple of songs. And one of those was Reckless Love by Corey Asbury. Is that right? And leaving the 99 and going down and tearing down the walls. There's no wall he won't tear down to get to this one person. And I just saw how God was doing that with my friend. And we, New Year's Eve night, we went out and met up with several of his friends. And one of the people that I was talking with asked me what I do. And I said, well, I teach at a community college. And they said, well, what do you teach? And, here's where the conversations usually end. Well, I teach religion. I teach Old Testament, New Testament, world religions, and ethics. And usually that stops everybody in their tracks. Yeah. But no, this person was really interested and pursued the conversation. And I understood at that moment while this was happening that God didn't send me down there just for him.
Right.
And wasn't just for me. It was for other people as well. And so I was able to minister that way, but you're right. The biggest ministry was, I guess, to myself. I needed that. I needed that alone time, and I finally got it. So.
I'm not real good at quiet time. I'll be, to be very honest, I'm kind of a extrovert. Gee, how'd I get in this business? But I do know this. The God's written word is the primary way that he speaks to us. He reveals himself to us in the word. Now, and the word is complete and everything you need to know is in there, but you're not going to find a verse in there that says, well, you've got this job offer in another state. You should or should not take it. It's not in there.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, there are guiding principles about your career, stewardship of your time, your resources, blah, blah, blah. So how then does God reveal himself? Well, I think you've touched on one of them is, through relationships with other believers. God can speak to you. Now, but this is where you have to really grow up as a Christian, because if what your Christian friend says is at odds with things written in the Word, well, your friend is, wrong.
Correct. Correct. So we spend a lot of time in the Bible. I went through a period in my life, much like what he's going through now, and I drew close to God and wrote down Bible verses in a notebook. I was so ashamed. I knew John 3:16, and that was the only one. And I said, this is not right. If I'm going to ever get to know God, I'm going to have to read the Bible. And I prayed and I said, God, when I read these verses and they jump off at the page and you're speaking to me, write them on my heart as I write them on this paper. And he did. And I've got notebooks full of scriptures. And when I come across situations like with my friend, the Holy Spirit reminds me of the right verse at the right moment. And I see a pattern of that throughout my time after I learned those Bible verses. So the flesh gives birth to flesh, but the spirit gives birth to spirit. And Jesus said, the very words I've spoken to you are spirit and they are life. And
a thought that's coming to my mind is really what you're talking about is finding consolation, finding comfort in crisis situations. And it just, I'm almost like getting chills, because what I'm seeing happening is just the other night, JD talked about, things that bring him comfort. His brother is now in heaven with the Lord, but there are certain I call them artifacts, he call them comfort, but objects. And he's got his brother's old Bible and his brother's old T-shirt. Well, the object in and of itself has no value, no spiritual value, but the memories that are associated with it. And now you're talking about going on a journey in solitude as a resource for comfort in crisis situations. And now I'm reading in the chat room, Ben Cooper is going to have a similar theme tomorrow night. Folks, if there's someone out there, and I guess I need to be serious, if you're struggling and you feel like you're just in darkness and falling down a canyon and you just don't know when you're going to hit bottom, folks, God is with you. Now, he may be with you by way of a close friend, by some memories of things in the past, or through his written word. But folks, circle up the wagons. Circle up the wagons, because without it, you're toast.
Right. And go. Just go. When God sends you to somebody, just go. He doesn't say sit around.
And it would have been hard for your friend to get on the road by himself for 8 hours to come see you.
Yeah, he couldn't do that. We talked about it, I offered, and he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I was in a position where I could. And in fact, I'm in a position where I pretty much have to go back next weekend. They came to fix the tub today and tore up my bathroom and went to go grab the new tub, and it was broken in 3 places. And so we had to order another one, and so back to Florida I go.
I guess God knew your mission wasn't complete, so he made
That's right.
made something happen.
He made some more provisions. Yes, I've learned there are no coincidences like that.
Yeah,
I've seen it happen too many times.
Well, where else did you go?
What is this place called? The Eagle's Nest.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, it's a really neat place. Fascinating place.
I think you are the first visitor here. And in fact, for Christmas, my wife got me a Keurig coffee maker and a little one of those mini refrigerator thingies. It has the coffee maker has not been used, so Doug was the one to christen and take the first fruit of the Keurig.
Great, Coach. We had a great time there.
Was the music okay?
It's a little loud, but it was perfect. I can't wait. I can't wait till you bring out your vision and really build upon this. This is going to be good.
We got a long ways to go, but we're making steps. And I'll tell you, I'm just overwhelmed. I was sharing with Sunbelt Girl last night, folks. Okay, listen. I'll be very honest with you. There are times, even when there's nothing going on, a coach has got to give a pep talk and got to keep people encouraged and motivated. And I've given a lot of pep talks that when you blow the smoke away, there wasn't much there. Okay, but folks, I am telling you that momentum is building. God is doing. I mean, I can see His hand moving, folks. We have got people contacting me to get on board here. Folks, Sunbelt Girl could tell you 2 years ago, we were begging people to come share their walk. And we just couldn't get anybody. And we're the chat room for the longest time, it was myself, Sunbelt Girl, and Steve. That was it. For weeks after week after week when there was no reason. But folks, we've got a lively chat room. I thank each of you for joining us in this, because it's not this. I hope that you listen and hear something that's useful, entertaining, or whatever. I hope your time here is enjoyed and beneficial. But more importantly, I want you to know that you're a part of this. You're not just sitting there watching television. Okay, you're a part of a family, and you're part of God's kingdom. Because I assure you, I've shared this with others, you can't get content providers, in this case a guest, without an audience, and you can't get an audience without a guest. So folks, we are turning some corners. The videos are doing well. I better let Doug, let me just drink coffee, Doug, share. I'm just excited, folks.
Yeah, I'm fortunate. We sat down for a couple of hours in the Eagle's Nest, and you shared with me a lot of your vision, and I think we all know this is not a small vision you have, and I see it growing exponentially. The chat room has ministered to me so much. The guests you have coming on, I need that, and for those of us especially that are living in isolated places, we need that. We need that interaction, and I come here and I get that with PJNet.
We basically have church every night, don't we?
Yeah, and it's real too. The people are real.
Yeah.
There's no mask, no pretensions.
Yeah.
So, and in fact, while I was at New Year's Eve, one of the people we were talking with basically said, I don't go to church anymore. I tried it. I don't like it. People are fake. And I said, no, no, no. Don't look at me like that. I'm just going to be real with you. And that's what you can expect. And she said, well, I'm so glad to hear that. And I could tell she genuinely meant it. Our conversation went on past that. And I think the church needs to be aware that sometimes we could turn people off with the perceptions that they bring in. And we just have to be real with them.
I think that, I don't know if people are misguided. I don't think they intentionally strayed from the path as far as we've strayed in organized religion. But we've done a couple of things. One, we forgot the book of Acts. It's funny, we study it, but what I read there has very little in common with the way that we do, quote, church today. So we've kind of drifted off course. But I think the biggest mistake we've made is we've modeled church after school. You've got a lecturer, a professional talking head who lectures. And then we've also adopted entertainment, where praise teams and this is one of the cautions I have for myself is this vision I have of, trusting and laser lights and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's good to appeal to a young audience to draw them in, but if you don't take the next step, you've just put on a show. And God didn't call us, Jesus didn't do miracles to put on a show.
No, it's all about discipleship. If you're not making disciples, shut it down and go home.
Well said.
Be Christ for someone else.
Yeah, it doesn't even say go ye and evangelize. It says make disciples. Now, evangelism, of course, is implicit in that command. But in mission work, a lot of times there's such an emphasis on productivity and metrics and how many baptisms and how much this stuff. According to some of the reports I've seen, everybody on the island of Barbados has been saved 3 times. We're seeing a lot of love in the chat room. Let me kind of run down the roster. Ben Cooper is here, folks. Tomorrow night, 9:00 will be, and he will be regularly here. The first Tuesday. I get confused. I'm not looking at a calendar, but he'll be on once a month, and tomorrow night is his night. And I've had some interesting conversations with Ben. Can't wait to share with him. Hazards 4 is here. If you're not here on Friday night, Hazards 4 runs the show, folks. You need to be here 10 p.m. Eastern. He will uncork one for you. All right. JD is here, and I can't wait. JD will be appearing weekly on Thursdays. He did his first program after a warm-up, sort of, but his first program the other night. And and it's just going, it's lighting up. Oh gosh, Rachel is here. Rachel is one of the core group, the dedicated, few and proud. Yes. And she offers me a lot of just encouragement, just privately, and praise, and just real. And Renee Leonard Kennedy is here, and she's in that same class. Just always a support. Now, I met her in North Carolina, and she's not the camera person. She's there in sort of a Barnabas role, to support others and encourage others. Sunbelt Girl, my co-host, producer, handler, and right hand, man, but she's obviously not a man. And Tammy from Georgia, I call her our Georgia PJ Peach cheerleader. She is the greatest. Thank you all so much for participating. Doug, we're about down to a minute, and we've got Casper coming up. Let me give you a few minutes to wrap it up, or not a few, 1 minute to wrap it up, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, Coach, I just want to say thank you to everybody in the chat room. Thank you for the blessing that you've been to me. And I look forward to hearing each and every one of you and seeing some of you again.
And Doug, you've got a few words on your website, DougCarterWriter.com, on the screen. And folks, he sent me some neat pictures. I don't know if I don't remember seeing those on your blog. But
One of
Palm
those
Beach.
was.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
one
right.
of those was.
All right. Well, Doug, I appreciate you, brother, and it's been magical from the time that you and several others that I met there in North Carolina, and God has just poured out blessings. And Doug, how can I just say it, man to man? I'm proud of you for what you're
Well, thank you,
doing,
Coach.
ministering to your friend. I know it. I know that it's not really it is a burden, but it's a burden of joy. It's kind of one of those things. That
I don't look at it as a burden. I get to go to Florida,
yeah,
but it's leaving the 99 and going for the one. That's what it's
that's
about for me.
you're. There are no good men, but Doug, you're a good man. I appreciate you, brother, and can't wait
Thanks, Coach.
to hope to see you next week sometime maybe.
All right, sounds good, Coach.
All
Take
right.
care.
All right. Doug Carter right here on PJ Net Live. I am enjoying myself, folks. There's so much I want to tell you, but we're out of time. And Casper is coming up at the bottom of the hour. So I've got to quickly retool everything. And Sunbelt Girl will kind of keep things going in the chat room while I do that. Y'all be in prayer for me. I need more coffee. We'll get her done. But don't go anywhere. Do not adjust your set. We have more PJ Net Live coming up. Stay right there.